Welcome to another SirJamesDTech and SirJamesDTech video. Today I'm going to be covering, as promised, my impressions for the Asus 27-inch VG278H monitor, which is 1920 by 1080, 120 Hz, and 3D capable. Now, first of all, let me tell you that I am absolutely blown away by 3D. Okay, I'm a fairly realistic man, not one that's given over to gimmicks, things like that, and 3D can be absolutely astounding if it's used as an enhancement and not something that's, okay, well, ham-handedly force it upon you. One of my first impressions with 3D was, I believe it was Friday the 13th Part 3, 1982. Saw it a couple years after that, of course, I'm not that old. But, that was 3D. That was all the rage back then, okay? I think even a couple years after that, it was in the Super Bowl halftime. It was 3D, and they passed out these cheap little glasses, made of cardboard, I think. But there really wasn't a heck of a lot to it outside of a guy juggling apples. There was a baseball bat held up to the screen and then an eyeball popping out, okay? That's not really used as an enhancement. That's just appeasing a fad. Whereas this, okay, you go into the Batman Arkham titles, and it literally feels and looks like you're walking through smoke, or you're in the vents and there's cobwebs and you can almost just feel it brushing past your face. It's tremendous. And I went through some of the other titles. Crisis 2 is really good with 3D. Crisis 3, which I'll get into later, is pretty good with 3D as well. And those are both DX11 titles. And then I've done a few fixes, shader overrides, things like that I copied from a website. And those go okay with different titles like Black Mesa, Skyrim, but typically those are only DX9. So while you got 3D, the textures take a hit. Okay, now the 120 Hz refresh rate. I had been gaming at 60 Hz for a long time, okay, and didn't really know any different. Then I popped in the Battlefield 3 multiplayer, and everything else looks like split pea soup compared to it, okay? Turning when, I can't remember the level name, but there's a lot of shipping containers around. And before, I would turn, and it would look like the worst kind of motion blur possible. And before you know it, you're getting shot and lit up, and you don't know what happened. Well, with 120 Hertz, you're able to move, you're able to turn. It's so much smoother because double the refresh rate, okay? And then, you're able to at least pinpoint your enemies so you can have, a chance. Now my KD ratio is almost 1-to-1. I'm terrible at multiplayer, okay? I warn you on that. I think some of you have seen me play, actually, and can confirm that. But, yeah, it's such a difference going with the 120. Now, for the ghosting on the desktop, I really haven't noticed that much of a difference. Maybe I've just got an untrained eye, but moving the mouse cursor around and moving windows around looks exactly the same as my other monitor. So again, maybe that's just because I don't know what to look for, but that's the impression I get for that. Now, this monitor does include the NVIDIA 3D IR emitter and also a pair of 3D Vision 2 glasses. Now, one thing about these 3D glasses, okay, now I understand these are an improvement from the 3D Vision 1, but still, they are uncomfortable as hell, okay? You get them on your head, and there's not a lot of padding on the tips, but, man, you get them on your head, and I don't even have that big of a melon, all right? I can imagine some people, but especially here, all right, after an hour or so, man, you can feel that. And that's not even wearing headphones. Try putting headphones on top of that, and then try having a pair of glasses on under these, which I wear at night. I wear glasses, okay? Haven't gotten the LASIK yet. At least they fit over the glasses, but yeah, that pain here, they don't rest comfortably. So maybe what NVIDIA could look into is some sort of padding or something, just to go around, the tips here, so that it's not that, boy, that makes you put these down more than any eye strain. By the way, the eye strain wasn't too bad. First couple nights I was able to do 3D for an hour and a half or so before I started getting a little bit of pain and then shut everything off, okay? Because it's not worth it. If you're in pain, how are you going to enjoy something? Well, some people would disagree with that, but how would I enjoy something? So, yeah, the eye strain isn't that bad, and now, I mean, I can go into 3D whenever I want non-stop. So it depends on if you're one of those people that gets headaches at 3D, then put it down as soon as you start getting the headache, and then hopefully your eyes and your mind will adjust. Okay, now a few things about the monitor. Stock out of the box, it comes with a noticeable blue tint on the screen. Okay, and I'll put my color calibration settings down in the description box. But yeah, I had to knock back the blues, and I think I've got it on game mode right now. It was in standard mode, but it's just too dim to me. And speaking of dim, I don't know if this is an NVIDIA driver issue or if it's a monitor issue, but okay, I understand when you enable a 3D vision, the screen's going to get dimmer. Okay, I understand that. But then after you're all done with your game or your video or whatever you're doing, and you disable it, it still stays dim. And you've got to restart your computer before that goes away. Now, maybe that is either a driver or a monitor issue, but it would be nice if when you disable it, it goes right back to the vibrant colors that were on there before the enabling. Now, unfortunately, I didn't view any 3D movies because I don't have a 3D Blu-ray drive. I'm looking to get one. But what I did do is view some videos that people have made about rock climbing and things like that, and boy, oh, you look like you're really up there, okay? So it's absolutely stunning to watch things like that in 3D, especially somebody that really hasn't viewed good three-dimensional viewing in their life. Another thing about the monitor is the connectors at the back are tremendously difficult to get to. Okay? Don't be a fool like me and wait until you've got it on the desk in order to try to connect everything. Okay? Get it out of the box, put it on the ground, put your connections in the back of it immediately, because I'll show you in a close-up that, man, they are right under here and they are flush. In fact, they're a little bit recessed in to the monitor. So those are really difficult if you're trying to get over the top. Don't take the chance. As soon as you get it out of the box, plug the power in, plug the DVI or VGA if you're still using VGA, which you shouldn't be on this kind of monitor. Plug them in right away. Don't do what I did. And the resolution, as I mentioned in the first video, is 1920 by 1080 at 27 inches, which isn't that bad. I mean, it's not 2560 by 1440, but at 27 inches and 120 hertz, this is pretty much as good as it's going to get. You want, smaller, 24 inches at 120 hertz, those are becoming more widely available. But there's only, pick of the litter of at 27 inches. Now, again, I'm well aware of the Yamasaki Cat Leaps Overlord monitors who got 27 inches at 1440p, and you can overclock their monitor. Well, a couple things. As I mentioned earlier, the range of the overclock can go between 95 hertz and in the 120s. Secondly, what's that doing to the lifespan of your monitor? Okay, it's not going to last all but a couple years, I think. I mean, unless these are some out-of-this-world PCBs. I don't think they're going to last that long, so I don't really know if it's worth going that route. If you've got the money to pay for something like this, which is natively 120 hertz. Okay? Now, some people that have Overlord are very passionate about it, and they'll vehemently disagree with me. But I guess just for me, for a monitor, running natively, I suppose, is just, unless you've just got money to throw away every couple of years and overclock your monitor, which could burn it out, I guess it would just be more worth it to me to have 1080p at 120 hertz. Now another thing that's going to drive me nuts is if they come out with OLED and flexible phones onto the market before 1440p and 27-inch, or certainly 1600p and 30-inch whatever, and 120 hertz refresh rate comes out on the market, I will go nuts. They have got to make this priority, okay? Because we've been living with the 60 hertz. I've seen now the difference it can make at 120, and it's just night and day. So they've got to get cracking on this stuff, man. Come on. Come out with some 1440p, 120 hertz, please. But all that said, there were 0 stuck pixels and absolutely no dead pixels. So that's impressive thus far. Alright, now for the SLI solution. You notice in the first video I had 2 GTX 670s from EVGA, and now I've only got 1. Well, what happened was I was running Battlefield 3, Crysis 3, all of a sudden these little boxes started appearing all over the screen. Artifacting. Okay, and I knew it wasn't a monitor problem because I'd go into other programs and nothing would be happening, but you kick the SLI in gaming and all of a sudden that would happen. Well, luckily I've got a motherboard, the Asus Maximus 4 Extreme P67, where you can disable the PCI lanes one at a time. So I was able to check that and disable, each card one at a time. And so what happened was, on the newest card there were artifacts everywhere, and on the one I had previous had, there were none, which stinks because in Crysis 3 that chugging effect was clarified. Okay, I could turn, I could move so much smoother, the FPS were in the 80s at least, and I only got a taste of that for maybe a day. But I will recommend EVGA on this aspect, okay? No, they didn't send me a shipping label because I didn't purchase their advanced RMA. But I called on a Friday morning at 1 a.m. in order to set up the RMA. And by 8 a.m. that morning, they had it approved. I had my number. I was able to get the card out of here and on its way to California where the process started. Okay, some companies might not even get back to you for 24 hours. And if it's on a Thursday night or Friday morning, it might even not be until Monday. Okay? So I will absolutely thank EVGA for being, I want to use a better word than quick, expeditious, if that's a word, about it, so that I can get the ball rolling, get my SLI back, and hopefully get back into these games and chug out better FPS, because that's really what I want to do, is get back into these games, and because that's the direction it's going, is Crysis 3 is really the new benchmark for where we're headed. For those of you that have a motherboard where you can disable the PCI lanes, you're going to love this bit. I was in the process of diagnostics when I was figuring out which of the cards was producing the artifacting. I disabled the top graphics card. However, I forgot to take the DVI cable out. So, boy, when I started that up, I did my spring cleaning early this year because, poof, just deep dust from inside the graphics card went pluming out, and I had the side panel off. So, remember in the first video I talked about it looked like it was snowing in here? When I took the backside panel off, boy, you should have seen it here. I had Bing Crosby running in my head. It's kind of like the saying, measure twice, cut once. Make sure you've got your connectors off the graphics card that you're disabling, okay? Because otherwise that thing's going to ramp up, and I can't imagine that's good for the GPU itself. So, once again, make sure you look before starting things up. Overall, though, I can absolutely recommend this monitor. It ran me $550, which is about the cost of what the Overlord monitor, which is overclockable, can run you, $550 around there. And the HE version, which does not include the IR emitter or the glasses, that was about $450. which this seems like a better deal to me if you're looking to get 3D. So this actually was cheaper when you think of it if you're going to end up buying those anyways. So this is a very good monitor. I like how they didn't have any dead or stuck pixels. I'd like to maybe get an answer on why it goes back to being dim and doesn't brighten back up after I disable the 3D. And maybe leave me a comment and tell me what other 3D games can you recommend for me. I've tried Crysis, all of them. I don't know if the first one has 3D. Find out. I'm aware that Max Payne 3 has very good 3D. Also, Battlefield 3 has it. Some of the other titles I've got it. Batman's, of course. So leave me a comment and recommend some other games and tell me what you think of this video. So I'll be back probably when the other EVGA card comes back. And I've also got a different product coming in which SirJamesDTech, me, is going to review probably in about a week or so once it gets here and I get a feel for it. So, alright, till then everybody, talk later.